Considered by a lot of people to be the worst roller coaster in the world is T3. This roller coaster is now defunct and has been standing but not operating for a few months now. This might actually be the last ever review about T3 at Kentucky Kingdom. Anyways, let's break down the experience and I'll tell you what the full experience would have been like had you ridden it. Once you're walking up to the ride, you're going to be greeted by a big T3 logo, which is actually now completely gone. The queue line had no theming, but was pretty well shaded and have like 12 switchbacks. Most people like the front row the best, so this ride got an extremely long line because the train never got completely filled all the time. The ride's line could have potentially been 10 minutes if all seats were filled, but sometimes it would end up being 45 minutes because the guests never filled all of the seats. So, it was a pretty big waste of time. Anyways, this ride has 7 cars per train and 2 people per car, and there were only 14 people per train. That made a capacity of about 900 people per hour, and it could be a walk-on. The ride's trains were made by a company named Kumbak. Kumbak is infamous for their horrible inverted restraints, and it does have vest restraints, which is supposed to eliminate headbanging, but it does not. The restraint, other than the vest, is similar to a lap bar, except it comes over the shoulder. And this is the reason why so many people hated it. Not because of the vest, but the lap bar comes down during the ride easily, and it will simulate leg amputation. It hurt a lot, and it's the reason why I only rode it 4 times, even though this is my only home part. I rode it maybe once per year, or once per 2 years on average, and it hurt every time I rode it. The restraint was so tight, and if they were running 2 trains, the operators were always pretty slow, so you would be sitting on the brake run, and the pain is so unbearable that you just grit your teeth the whole time. Anyways, let's get into the layout of the ride. It's the same as any other Vekoma SLC. Might be slightly different, but it should be the same. This was actually the second ever Vekoma SLC. Anyways, start up the lift hill, which went obnoxiously slow. And once you crossed over the 101.7 feet tall lift hill, you're going to go down the first drop. It was extremely shallow, but it gave a little bit of laterals. At the valley of the drop, if the restraint is up a little bit, it will quickly calm down, causing you to be stapled for the rest of the ride. And yes, it will hurt. This is also extremely rough. One of the roughest coasters I've ever ridden. Roll into the rollover, which is a half loop, a 360-degree twist, and then the second half of a half loop. It seems like it would be a great element, but because this coaster is so rough, it is just painful. Go into an element of the ride, which was sort of like a wave turn, but not exactly a wave turn. And this is just so rough. Probably the worst, roughest part of the ride. Go into a sidewinder, which is pretty rough, and go into a 270-degree right helix, which was extremely forgettable. This ride, so far, is rough, painful, gave no forces, or at least I couldn't feel any forces with the amount of pain. Anyways, go into a double inline twist, which you can tell how rough it is just based off of a POV. Turn around and go into a few feet dip and glide into the brake run. Turn to the right and go into the second half of the brake run. Again, if the ride was running 2 trains, you would have been on the brake run for ages until the train in the station finally dispatched, and it is painful. And hopefully your leg wasn't amputated. I'm just kidding. Nobody's leg was actually amputated. Anyways, you aren't going to be able to feel your legs for a few minutes, but it's going to feel amazing once you get off the ride, as you won't have to feel the pain that came with those awful restraints. If I could sum this roller coaster up in one word, it would be ow. Just ow. Anyways, that's going to wrap up today's review about T3. I hope you've enjoyed. Please subscribe and like this video. Comment below your thoughts on T3 if you've ridden it, and have a great rest of your day.